You're standing in the Walmart checkout line holding a coat, a bag of dog food, maybe a wrench set, and you have no idea that 4 miles away the exact same item, sometimes made by the exact same company, is sitting on a shelf for less. I spent 12 years stocking shelves at Tractor Supply, and I watched fixed-income folks overpay for years without ever knowing it. And the last item on this list is the one that proves cheaper isn't always the same as smarter. This isn't farm store versus big box. It's about who actually makes what you're buying. Some of these house brands come out of the same factories as the name brands at Walmart. Same formula, cheaper label. Others just look like a deal. 9 categories, side by side, starting with the one almost nobody checks. Most folks walk into Tractor Supply thinking it's just fencing and feed, so they walk right past the one section that could save them the most money on a random Tuesday. That's the clearance corner up near the registers. I restocked it myself, every week for years. And I can tell you nobody was taking pictures of it for Pinterest, but they should have been. Home decor, candles, seasonal goods. That corner gets marked down up to 50%, and small everyday items drop under $5 regularly. A candle that's $10 at a big box store shows up there at half price 2 weeks earlier, because the farm store turns seasonal inventory faster than people assume. The mistake is mental, not financial. Shoppers see farm store and their brain files the whole building under "not for me," so they never even glance at the yellow tags. Here's the home consequence. Somebody pays full price at Walmart for a candle or a hat or a household item 2 weeks after that exact style already got marked down 40 minutes away. That's real money left on the table out of habit, and it's not a one-time thing. That clearance section rotates on a seasonal cycle, so the trick isn't just check clearance, it's check clearance on a schedule. Spring decor clears out right before summer arrives. Fall and winter goods clear out early too, usually while there's still plenty of the season left to use them. Miss that window, and you're back to paying full price everywhere else. The move is simple. Check the clearance end cap first, every single visit, before you even look at the regular shelf. Timing the trip matters more than which store you're loyal to. That's the easy one. The next one isn't about a shelf at all. It's about a policy most shoppers don't even know exists. Most people assume price matching died with the last decade of big box stores. It didn't. Tractor Supply still runs one, and almost nobody at the register ever asks for it. Here's the shape of it. You've got 30 days to bring in proof of a lower price from a real competitor, in-store or online, and they'll match it. I used to process these myself. A customer would set a phone on the counter with a screenshot, and that was usually enough. The catch is it has to be an identical item, in stock, and sold directly by the competitor, not some third-party marketplace listing on Amazon or eBay. That part trips people up. The consequence is quiet. Somebody pays full price on a tool or a piece of gear because they never thought to ask, and the receipt sitting in their pocket was actual leverage they didn't use. This isn't advertised on a sign over the aisle. You have to know to ask for it. And there's a second layer most people never think through. If you already bought the item and paid full price, you still have a window to go back and claim the difference. It doesn't have to happen at the register on the same trip. People assume once they've paid, that's the end of it. It isn't, as long as you're inside that 30-day window with proof in hand. So the move is, screenshot the lower price before you go and request the match at checkout, or go back with your receipt if you already bought it, every time. Knowing how to force a lower price only helps if you're also collecting something on the way there, which brings us to the next one. A lot of seniors walk up to the register expecting the same age discount they'd get at a pharmacy or a hardware chain. Tractor Supply doesn't have one. I watched customers hear that and just walk away disappointed, assuming that meant there was nothing else on the table. That assumption costs money. There's a free loyalty program. No age requirement, no fee, and right now it's running around 5% back in reward certificates on everyday purchases. It's not a discount. It's more like a refund people forget to collect. Sign up once with your phone number, and every purchase quietly builds toward a credit. Here's where it gets sneaky, though. Those points expire after 12 months without activity, so the shopper who comes in 3 or 4 times a year, buys a little, and doesn't come back regularly, can lose what they've already earned without ever knowing it happened. The sign-up kiosk sits right near the register, and most people walk past it because they already decided in their head that no senior discount meant no savings program, period. The fix is calm. Sign up, use the same phone number every visit, and actually redeem before that 12-month window closes. Set a reminder if you have to. Check your balance twice a year. the same way you'd check anything else that quietly builds up in the background. That's the everyday purchase savings. The next one only shows up if you're buying more than just a little at a time. Two people can buy the exact same bag of feed on the exact same day, and one of them pays a price the other one never even knew existed. That's the bulk tier. It's not posted on a sign down the aisle. It activates at the register, based on quantity, and depending on what you're buying, the discount can run anywhere from around 5% up into the 10 to 15% range on things like feed and fencing. I was trained to mention it, but plenty of team members don't unless a customer asks directly, because it's just one more thing in a busy shift. The people who miss this most are the ones buying just enough for now every single month, instead of consolidating into one larger trip. A single senior with a couple of chickens might never hit that threshold alone, but splitting an order with a neighbor, buying together, can get both households into that discount tier even though they're technically checking out separately. So the home consequence is this. A shopper who's been making the same small feed run monthly for years has been quietly leaving a stackable discount on the table the entire time. It's the kind of savings that doesn't feel like much on any single trip, which is exactly why nobody chases it down, but added up across a whole year of feed runs, and it stops looking small. The move is simple. Before you check out, ask what quantity gets you into the next pricing tier, and if you're close, consider whether it's worth buying a little more now instead of coming back next month. Once you understand how the pricing system actually works, it's time to look at what you're putting in your cart. Starting with what you're wearing, somebody grabs the name brand coat off the rack out of pure habit, without ever looking at what's hanging 6 inches to the left of it. That habit is expensive. Tractor Supply's own workwear line sits right next to the recognizable logos, and by most side-by-side comparisons, it runs about 40% cheaper than Carhartt, with construction people describe as genuinely comparable. It's not a knockoff. The boots in that line use a resolable welt construction, which means when the sole finally wears down, you're not throwing the whole boot away, you're just replacing the bottom. Here's the shelf signal. The house brand tag is sitting directly next to the name brand equivalent. Same rack, similar stitching, wildly different price. Most people never stop to compare them side by side, because an unfamiliar label doesn't trigger the same trust a recognizable logo does automatically. The home consequence is a fixed-income shopper replacing a cheap coat every winter instead of buying one durable, resolable pair of boots a single time. Run the real math. A boot you can resole for years costs less per year of ownership than a boot you replace every season, even if the sticker price looks higher on day one. That's the part most people never calculate. They look at the number on the tag today, not the number spread out over 5 winters of ownership. Compare the stitching and the material before you default to the logo you already trust, and ask yourself whether you're buying for one season or for the long haul. Clothing is a straightforward win. Tools are where the same private label gamble gets more complicated. Here's the part most people miss. One brand name on a shelf can quietly cover 2 completely different supply chains. Tractor Supply's house tool brand is a good example, and it's the one place on this list where I'd tell you to slow down instead of assuming cheaper automatically wins. Their 253-piece mechanics set runs around $80 and has strong reviews, and the core wrench and ratchet lines in that boxed set are reportedly made by the same manufacturer behind a well-known name brand tool line. That's a real win. But walk a few feet over to the loose bins and the promo tables near the front of the store, and you'll find tools under that exact same brand name, sourced completely differently, and rated far lower by the people who actually used them. I used to physically check which pallet a tool came off before I trusted the label myself, because the packaging alone won't tell you which version you're holding. The home consequence is somebody grabbing a promo table tool expecting the same durability as the boxed set, and having it fail on the very first hard job, right when they actually needed it to hold. That's the frustrating part. It's not that the brand lied to you, it's that one name is covering 2 very different products, and the only way to tell them apart is to actually look at where the item is displayed and how it's packaged, not just what's printed on it. The calm move. Buy the packaged, reviewed sets. Skip the loose bin under the same name unless you already know exactly what you're getting. Tools are usually a one-time purchase. What you feed your animals is something you're buying every single month. A shopper picks the pricier, recognizable feed bag off the shelf, assuming the unfamiliar store-brand version next to it has to be a downgrade. That assumption is backwards, and it's costing people money every month. Tractor Supply's house brand chicken and livestock feed is manufactured by Purina, under a private label agreement, using the same nutritional standards, just without the expensive name printed on the front. I learned this checking manufacturing codes on pallets during receiving shifts, long before it ever became common knowledge among customers. Same company, same standards, lower shelf price. The shelf signal is right there if you look. The house brand bag often sits on the exact same pallet run as its name brand counterpart, delivered on the same truck. Most people never notice because an unfamiliar label reads as generic in their head instead of what it actually is, which is a partnership brand. Here's the home consequence. A small flock owner has been overpaying month after month for feed made in the exact same facility as the bag sitting 2 feet away for less. Multiply that by every feed run for a year, and you're looking at real money spent purely on brand recognition instead of anything printed inside the bag. One caution, though, formulations aren't always identical between the store brand and the name brand. So it still pays to flip the bag over and compare the protein numbers on the guaranteed analysis panel before you assume they're twins. This isn't about blindly trusting every store brand in the building. It's about knowing which ones are worth trusting, and this is one of them. Check the code. Compare the numbers. Don't assume store brand automatically means lesser. If that trick holds true for chickens, it holds even truer for the animal most seniors actually care about the most. 2 bags sit on adjacent shelves. One is smaller and expensive. One is bigger and cheap. Most people compare the sticker price and never once do the actual math. And that's exactly where the real gap hides. Roughly a 30-pound bag of the house brand runs somewhere around $35 to $38. A roughly 22-pound bag of a popular name brand runs somewhere around $60 to $64. That's more food, in a bigger bag, for meaningfully less money, and both are produced by well-established manufacturers in the pet food industry. The name brand markup is mostly about marketing on the front of the bag, not necessarily a different tier of ingredient behind it. Do the division standing right there in the aisle, not after you've already checked out. Price per pound tells you the real story. Sticker price alone tells you almost nothing. The home consequence is quiet, but it adds up fast. A senior on a fixed income has been paying nearly double per pound for years, purely out of brand habit, never once running the numbers side by side. That's not a small mistake. Multiply it across every single bag bought over a decade, feeding the same dog that's been part of the family the whole time, and it's real money that could have gone somewhere else, toward the dog's care, toward anything else on a tight monthly budget. Always calculate cost per pound before you compare sticker prices directly, every time, on every bag. It takes 10 seconds, and it's the single easiest number on this entire list to check for yourself, right there in the aisle, before you ever get to the register. Every item on this list so far has been about paying less for the exact same thing. The last one flips that entire idea on its head. This is the one place on the whole list where I'd tell you to stop trusting the pattern you just learned. 8 items in a row just proved that the cheaper house brand option usually wins. This one is the exception, and it's exactly why it earns the final spot. House brand equipment and implements at Tractor Supply are manufactured by an established equipment maker, and on paper, they do the same job as the premium lines for a noticeably lower price. But mechanics and long-time owners consistently point out that these implements are built with thinner gauge steel than premium competing lines. Lower price up front, shorter working life underneath it. Here's the shelf signal, if you know to look for it. Stand next to a cheaper implement and a premium one side by side, and the metal gauge is visibly, physically thinner. Most people never notice because after seeing private label win category after category, they walk in assuming the pattern holds everywhere in the store. It doesn't. The home consequence is the quiet kind. A shopper replaces the cheaper implement twice in the time a heavier built one would have lasted once, and by the time that second replacement happens, the original savings are completely gone, sometimes worse than gone once you factor in the hassle of buying, hauling, and setting up a second one. That's the trap. Every other item on this list rewarded the instinct to grab the lower number on the tag. This is the one place where that same instinct can quietly work against you if you're not paying attention to how the thing is actually built underneath. Here's the honest twist, though, because I'm not telling you to always buy the expensive version either. If you're using it lightly, occasionally, a few times a season, the cheaper option is still the smarter buy. It only turns into a problem under heavy, frequent, year-round use. Match the purchase to how often you'll actually use it, not just to whichever price tag is lower. That's the whole difference, and it's the one piece of advice on this entire list that isn't simply buy the cheaper one. So here's the real system, laid out plain. Loyalty points and bulk tiers stack right on top of whatever you're already saving on private label goods. The house brand wins on clothing. It wins on feed. It wins on dog food. It wins on tools, but only if you know which bin to grab from. And it can lose, quietly, on equipment, if you're using it hard enough, often enough, for long enough. Being frugal was never about automatically grabbing the lowest price tag on the shelf. It's about knowing exactly which purchases reward that instinct, and which single one can quietly punish it. Before your next Walmart run, pick one category off this list, feed, dog food, or workwear, and do the price per unit math side by side at Tractor Supply first. You might be surprised how fast it adds up. So tell me, which one of these have you already noticed for yourself? And which Tractor Supply house brand did you personally assume was the cheap option, right up until you actually looked closer?